Hi, in the previous video I showed that we could use parallel refactoring in order to keep the test passing while we perform manual refactorings to extract an order lines class out of our order class. This time I'm going to do exactly the same refactoring, except this time I'm going to rely much more heavily on IntelliJ's automated refactoring tools. There is no one automated refactoring tool that IntelliJ offers to make the change that we want, but by composing them together I can get to the change that we want by using mostly just these automated moves. This means that every move that we make will keep the test passed. There's much less opportunity for the test to even fail while we're typing in the name of a variable or something like that. So let's see how this goes. Here's the code. It's been reset as it was before. Now with IntelliJ there's a lot of automated refactoring tools, and if I press Control T on a Mac, then it will bring up a list of all of the ones that are available. This is context sensitive, so depending on where my cursor is, I might have different ones available. You'll also notice in this list that there will be key commands that are assigned to some of them, so I'll be using these where they're available. So first thing I want to do is run the tests and make sure they still pass. That's good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these pieces of code that we previously extracted into the new class, and instead of extracting them into new class, I'm going to extract them into private methods within this class. So I'm going to first do this one in add. We'll just call it add, and then I'm going to do the same with this isEmpty check. So we've got a little method called isEmpty. And then I'm going to do the same with this piece of code that converts the hash map into the list of order line. We'll call it as list. I'm going to do just a little bit of tidying up, so I'm going to inline this here because there's no point in having this intermediate variable. I'm just going to bring all these private methods down together so they're in one place and we can focus on them. Okay, the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all of these methods into static methods. This might seem a little bit strange, but it's something that I know will lead me to somewhere that I want to go. So the first thing I will do is convert each of these into the static method. And again, we'll run the tests and we'll see that everything is still passing. Now the reason I change these into static methods is that these now take the hash as an input. So what this allows me to do is apply a new refactoring, which is to turn these into parameter objects. So for the first one I'm going to do this, and I'm going to call this order lines. So now we're starting to create the class, and I can refactor that, but I also want to make sure that it's just the lines that get wrapped up in this parameter object. So that's that one done. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this one, but this time instead of creating a new one, I'm just going to use the same class that we just created. We'll refactor that, and then we do the same here. Again, use the existing one. There we go. So now that I've done that, I'm going to convert these back into instance methods. Now, because we've added this parameter object, we'll get a new option when we do this. So here we've got convert to instance method, and now it's going to give me the option to say where do I want this instance method to exist. And here I can now say that I want it to go onto order lines. So let's do it there. Let's do it for isEmpty as well. So convert to an instance method, and then finally for as list. There we go, and now I'm just going to update the order here so that it looks similar to our previous version. So now this is done, but this order lines now is just a wrapper around the lines. So if we come back into here, we can see that everywhere this is used, it's creating a new order lines. So before we do anything, let's run the tests again, make sure everything is still passing. Okay, so now I'm going to move this up into a field. So I can press the refactoring to extract it as a field, and let's call it new lines. So we can see that it's been added as a field on the object up there. Let's also ask this to move the declaration of order lines up to where the field is declared. And then down here, this one here and this one here, I'm just going to use multiple cursors then to select them both, so I can now use new lines there. So at this point, hopefully, if I run the test, everything is still passing. Now I can come back to here, and I can see that actually this is still wrapping the lines. So lines is still this hash map up here, but actually we want this to be something that's owned by the order lines class. So I'm just going to replace this with new hash map. Again, let's run the test and see everything is working. We're good. Now we can see that this parameter is no longer used, so we can ask IntelliJ to safely delete it. We can run the test again. We can see that everything is green. And then finally, lines is left over in here. It's not needed anymore, so we can remove that. And exactly like we did before, let's rename this field so that it has the name that we want. And we're done. So yet again, we ended up in exactly the same place as the previous two examples, but this time something a little bit different happened. We made the iterative changes, but we made them using atomic actions provided by IntelliJ. This meant that we didn't have those times where we were defining a new class by typing, so that the times when the test failed were really reduced down to almost nothing. I think there was about one place where I had to type something and the test would have failed for about a second. But this is by far the most complete way of refactoring. Obviously, depending on the language that you're using and the editor that you're using, you may not have this power, or you may have lesser power than you have with IntelliJ and Java. But if you are using IntelliJ and Java, you have so much power, and it really pays off to learn the different refactorings available.